Next, we will talk about arrived in Canada. On August 17th, His Holiness concluded all of his activities in the United States and headed to his next destination, Canada. Let's see which stop this was. This should be the 8th stop. There were 2 stops left. One was France and the others were Hong Kong and so on. By this point, we were almost ready to return. We arrived in Canada. Early in the 17th century, Canada was a French colony and it was later ceded to Britain, but did not achieve full independence until 1982. So those old-school European empires actually controlled much of the world through colonial or semi-colonial means for many, many years. When you visit different countries, you feel it in this world. Whether now or in ancient times, true peace and true equality have always been rare. The strong tend to devour the weak. It is true for ethnic groups and true for nations. The fragmentation and order of the entire world are just like this. This is the history of humanity. Perhaps only Mahayana Buddhism is all-embracing. It can encompass everything. In contrast, the secular world is entirely self-centered. You can see this clearly from their history. When we visited, it was 1993. If independence was in 1982, it had only been independent for about 10 years. When we visited in 1993, Canada had a population of fewer than 30 million people. I don't know how many there are now, I didn't check. If you check now, it's very easy online. In the past, when we traveled, we often wanted to know things, but if you didn't have the information on hand, there was no internet. I often think that if I knew how to use the internet back then while traveling with His Holiness, I would have spent every night online learning so many things. Then the next day I could have told my guru. His Holiness was very eager to learn about new things, whether in politics, economics, or local affairs. We could only ask around. But usually the people around a teacher can be quite dismissive. Some wouldn't even bother to talk to you properly. I would ask, what are the rules here? And they wouldn't give me a straight answer. Sometimes there was a language barrier, so it was very difficult. So if there were a chance to take a computer and go with my guru again, that would be a real blessing. But indeed, back then we had nothing. However, the total area of land in Canada is larger than the United States and China, making it the second largest country in area after Russia. It should still be the same today. So Canada is a vast land with a sparse population and very abundant resources. They aren't very willing to accept many refugees. I don't know what the situation is like now. Despite the fact that Canada is a close neighbor to the United States, the pace of life is entirely different. People there do things in a leisurely way. They appeared to be extremely patient and carried on as though they had plenty of time. They were a bit like Tibetans. Maybe they wouldn't necessarily agree with that now, because when we went 20 or 30 years ago compared to when I went 10 years ago, the difference seemed quite large. It seemed quite different already. It's not like it used to be. Now it seems even the Tibetans living there carry some influence from the United States and other countries. There is more of a sense of being in a rush, so at that time we felt quite at ease. Arriving here, we unconsciously released the stress from before. Before you had to speak for 2 hours and there were many things to do. Especially in some of the Dharma assemblies of Chögyam, Trungpa, Rinpoche, they had a very strong concept of time. It was the same in other Dharma centers. But arriving here, we entered an indescribable state of relaxation and felt quite comfortable. The flight from Boston to Halifax lasted slightly longer than an hour. In 2014, I really wanted to go. Some Dharma friends invited me, but the schedule was a bit tight then. At first, we went to Australia and New Zealand, and then flew directly to the United States. At that time in the US, it was a close call. We almost missed our flight to Canada. Luckily, we ran into a Tibetan person. Just as we came out, this Tibetan person led us, saying, "If you want to go, you must go to the other terminal." We hurried over, and just as we got in, we caught the flight. Later, I told them jokingly, "Was this a Dharma protector?" Later, when we arrived in California, it turned out it wasn't a Dharma protector. That person actually showed up in person to attend the class. When we went to Canada at that time in 2014, I visited. Originally, I wanted to go back later, but I couldn't make it. At that time in Canada, yes, I didn't make it to Halifax then. We went to Toronto and Montreal. We went to those places. The flight only takes about an hour. As a result of the positive relations between the United States and Canada, it's still okay now, though not as good as before. We went through customs smoothly. Following our departure from the airport, we arrived at a famous local Dharma center named Sharchen Ling. In fact, this is also a Shambhala center where Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche once lived. Inside there are photos of him riding a horse and some scorpions, the scorpions of Padmasambhava and the Tibetan syllables Hong and Put. Every room had something different. It was that kind of Dharma center. We stayed there for 2 days. Unlike most places, this time His Holiness stayed on the 3rd floor instead of the ground floor. So outside the room there was a big open balcony. The view was sweeping and panoramic, taking in the ocean. You could also gaze at the islands and city in the distance. The view was very wide. You can see this in the photos. That afternoon, His Holiness seemed to be in a very good mood and his complexion was very good. The climate of Canada is at its finest in August. Actually, it should be very good now too. The last time we went was around October, at the end of October. At that time there were yellow leaves everywhere. I specifically took some photos then. I felt it was a very good place. But this time in the story was likely the best season. Not only were humidity levels low, but the sky was a brilliant blue, allowing sunshine to radiate everywhere. In the afternoon, His Holiness sat on the balcony, sipping tea and mingling with his guests, gazing at the beautiful scenery where the water meets the sky. How was His Holiness that day? His spirit was refreshed, and he was full of praise. He specifically said, "Here we have blue skies, the vast ocean, rolling mountains, and lush forests. The landscape is incredibly picturesque. This is by far the most beautiful place I've ever visited." At that time, His Holiness had been to many places, but everyone knows his praise for this place. Of all the places I have visited, this is the best. In the future, some people might go looking for Sharchen Ling. Because of the book Recollection of the Time Gone By, I heard that in Bhutan the pilgrimage business for Buddhists is doing quite well. Places with Vajrakilaya, places where Padmasambhava left his traces, Tiger's Nest, but the United States might be different from Bhutan, Nepal or India. Those places have historical monasteries and historical Buddha statues that remain unchanged. In the US and Canada, many places are just Dharma centers. These centers might change over time. They might have changed so we can follow the history and go and visit, but you might not necessarily find the exact place as it was back then. When I saw that His Holiness was in a good mood and the sickly complexion of the previous days was gone, and he even looked younger, I quickly took out my camera and began taking snapshots, hoping to give them as gifts to the monastic community when I returned. His Holiness was more than willing to cooperate, wore a smile on his face, and posed for photos. Actually, I was thinking when we went to India, whenever I took out the camera, His Holiness was quite strict about it. From the time we arrived in Sarnath until we left Nepal, I didn't dare take a single photo. I wrote about this in the book. Originally, those holy sites of the Buddha had great blessings, but I didn't dare take pictures. But when His Holiness went to the US for the second time, he often took the initiative. If you want to take a photo, take it. He seemed much more open than before. By then the camera was of slightly better quality. Whenever I was taking photos, His Holiness was especially cooperative. Including later when we went to Singapore, His Holiness would often say, "Shall we take a photo together?" After taking photos outdoors, we went back inside to take more. I recall when taking one of the photos, I told His Holiness beforehand that I intended to share the photo with the monastic community and asked if he would abide in a special state of samadhi. His Holiness then chanted some mantras. Outwardly, it appeared that he was abiding in a special state. Anyone who sees it might receive blessings. In fact, whenever His Holiness traveled to teach the Dharma, what gift did all the disciples want most? It was a photograph of him taken in that location. Every time they treated it like a priceless jewel. Some placed these photos in their shrine rooms, some hung them on their walls, and others carried them with them as the object of their prayers and the support for their visualizations. This reflected their faith in their root guru at that time. It is probably still the same now. Many people both at home and abroad have this kind of faith in their guru. Actually, photographs and images are like this. They serve the same purpose. One particular example is Lama Sodargye. He has several large photos of His Holiness adorning the walls of his home. Every one of them is very large. He had told me in private before, every time we went abroad he would say, "Since you are going out together, make sure you take good photos of His Holiness." But his requirements were quite high. For one, he wanted a full body photo, not a half body one. He couldn't stand the certain expressions we see in some artistic portraits today. Also, he said the photo shouldn't be blocked by the throne in front. If the whole body wasn't visible, or if there were bottles or other things in front, he felt it wasn't right. He would often say, when such and such a great master takes a photo, his whole body is visible. This is very important. He also said that no one should be standing alongside him. Once I went to Lama Sodern's house, and he was using scissors to cut someone else out of a photo. I asked him why. It was a group photo with others. He said the guru looks great in the photo, but that person is so annoying. He always stands right next to His Holiness, and I really dislike it. Back at the academy, I had seen him doing this once before. So his requirements were a full body shot, no obstructions in front, no one else on the side, and ideally His Holiness should be smiling. I think this is good, as many people today prefer a smiling photo, not many like those that look too stern. So he had those requirements for me back then. When he couldn't go himself, he would often say this, but he often took a camera himself to photograph His Holiness, yet we never saw a single one of his photos. We used to joke with him about that. So I thought at the time, Dharma friends like Lama Sodern will surely be pleased with this photo. As expected, when the photo was finally came out, everyone was very happy and joyful. This picture later became quite iconic, and His Holiness had specially blessed it. As I also mentioned in Recollection of the Time Gone By, there were specific photos taken at Mount Wutai and in Hong Kong. For me, the best photo of His Holiness is the one I first saw of him wearing his Dharma robes. That was taken in 1994, and I saw it at the beginning of 1995, so everyone can look at them according to their own situation. Some have never met His Holiness, but relying on the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it makes no difference. I am also working on a memorial for His Holiness. It's already finished, a statue of His Holiness for a memorial hall in my hometown. In truth, after His Holiness or other gurus pass away, we can only rely on these sacred images. They are a support for blessings and a support for visualization. That brings us to the end of this part. Later, this photograph became widely popular. That is all for now.
Bandara Badma Sodargye Bandara Badma Sodargye Bandara Badma Sodargye